All right, doing a little post-production on the podcast. Obviously, some volume issues if you listen to the live stream. I hope and think that I have them corrected, but just as a little tip, be prepared to adjust the volume as I transition from interview and back from the interview, just in case. I feel like I've got it smoothed out, but just in case, just be prepared to have that volume adjusted pretty quickly. So, anyways, with the post production on the volume, I went ahead and added some additional interviews to the podcast as well. So outside of that, this was the live stream from Wednesday night. Again, I want to say thank you to all the Ute fans for tuning in. So appreciate everybody. Let's get to the episode. Welcome on in to the Utah Blockcast. Steve Bartle, good to be with you guys. Man, excited to be doing this. This is my first live stream on Twitter with the Utah Blockcast. Should be doing a lot more of these. Should be a lot of fun. And today was a fun one. Being up there, back up at up on Guardsman Way, up at the practice facility. Had the opportunity today to talk to assistant coaches, to talk to Coach Whittingham, and we got to talk to a few select players as well. And so I'm going to have some clips, some cut-ups from what we saw today, or what we got today from those from the coaches today, from Coach Whittingham, from the assistants, and then from the players as well. But just in general, some quick thoughts before we dive into everything. The vibes seem good. I think I thought that was definitely noticeable. The vibes are much different than what they've been in the last couple years, and you could just kind of feel it. Like, you could see it, you could feel it. There's a refreshed sense of appreciation, of energy, of just good vibes, and so it was good to be back up there. Good to see everybody, all the media members up there as well. So, in terms of what we saw today, or what we got today from our conversations with the assistant coaches, we had the opportunity today to first speak with the assistant coaches. We spoke with them about midway through the day, from 11:30 to 12:30. We got each of them for about 5 minutes, and we had a quick little run through of each position group. We got Morgan Scally and Jason Beck for about 10 minutes. So we got a little bit more from them, and it was good to kind of get a feel for what the coaches are seeing, what the coaches are feeling in terms of where they're at with their position groups. And obviously, the coaches have had to stay sort of hands off with summer workouts and stuff. They've had to just by NCAA rules, like, they haven't been able to be too involved. But it does sound like, according to Coach Whittingham, that it's clear and evident that the players put in a lot of work this summer, and so that's really encouraging to hear. And it sounds like the offense had a really good day today. So with that, let's get to, and if you guys, before we get into some of the videos and all that sort of stuff, if you guys have comments, there's a chat feature you can utilize here. Please feel free. If you've got questions, if you've got comments, appreciate them all. This is going to be more of a regular thing for me and the Blockcast. It's going to be a lot of fun to do more of these, so please feel free to interact. I'll do my best to get through the questions and all that. But yeah, let's get to some of the video from today. I think we'll start with Coach Whittingham, since we got to talk to him for about 5 minutes, and pretty fresh. So I'll pull up that clip here.
Expectations for day one? What was the energy like? What was the focus like?
It was good. It was, and day one is different than it was 5-10 years ago. I think I said this last year, but with the way the NCAA allows you to do certain things in the summer now, it's more a continuation of what we've been doing, in a sense, than finally getting a chance to go out and play football. So in that regard, and you expect to be further ahead, and it's a good thing they changed those rules, because with the influx of new players that everybody has, it helps those guys make that transition. So I thought today was a really good start. The one thing that was really impressive when you contrast it with spring is the way the offense operated as far as just subbing the groups in and out, getting the plays underway. Just the operating itself was much cleaner than what we had seen in the spring. So very evident and very obvious that these guys have worked a lot on their own this summer at that execution and the timing of the stuff.
Where is kind of their comfort level in learning the playbook and kind of giving
It's learned. Yeah, it's learned, from everyone that was here in spring. Now we have about 30 guys that are new that were not here in spring, so they're playing a little bit of catch up. But again, very pleased with the operation of the way the offense today handled it, and very few substitution errors, 0 delay of games, false start or 2, but that's to be expected on day one. But overall, very good, clean, very clean practice.
Kyle, this is a different style offense than you've had at your tenure at Utah. I mean, what adjustments have come with that as being the head coach and just, adapting to it, really?
Well, no real adjustments for me. I mean, we're not going to huddle. I mean, it's going to be a little more up-tempo, but still it's not ridiculously fast where you're going to snap the ball with 25, 30 seconds left on the play clock. It's not that, but it is a different way to operate. But there's a lot of different ways to be good on offense, and this is Coach Beck's system and what he's used to, and we're going with it.
What excites you most about that offense? What is it that you think will be best?
Probably our big play capability at quarterback. I mean, Devin Dampier is a big play guy, and this offense suits him to a T. He's a true dual threat.
Sean Parker guaranteed 1,000-yard season from himself. Yes, he did.
All right. Well, with the offensive line we got, then that's very realistic. And the offensive line better be good. Everyone's telling them they're good, including me. And so, as the offensive line goes, so will go the running game. But we've had a 1,000-yard rusher here many times, and so that's not something totally out of our character.
How about 2,000?
Haven't had that. I can't remember having that. But that if he goes for 2,000 yards, we've had a great season. How about that?
Now, with the backup spot for quarterback, what's kind of your expectations for that with Bird and Isaac? Like, how are you trying to develop them as you go through this?
Well, just as complete quarterbacks, we're judging it on every single thing they do. Accuracy, taking care of the football, command of the offense, just everything. Execution-wise, cadence, I mean, it all is factored in. And whichever guys we feel is going to do the best job of getting us in the end zone and keeping the defense out of bad situations is the guy that will win the job.
Kyle, you've coached a lot of quarterbacks, Alex Smith, Cam Rising. I'm just curious, where does Devin compare in terms of leadership and skill to you at this point?
Yeah, leadership-wise, he's as good as any we've had. He's a terrific leader. He's made a great bond with the entire football team, not just the offense. He's one of those guys that's got that it factor, the charisma that you look for in a quarterback. He's a different style of quarterback than Alex and some of the guys we've had, but he gets it done his way. Last year, I keep going back to last year, but those numbers that he put up last year were pretty impressive, and if he can duplicate that this year, then we're going to be in good shape.
What makes Devin an effective quarterback in a spread scheme like this one?
Well, probably his overall athleticism, number one. His quick release, he gets the ball out quick. His ability to extend plays. He only, as we've talked about before, was only sacked 4 or 5 times last year, which is an incredible stat. And he's got a real ability to keep his eyes downfield as he's on the move. He doesn't escape the pocket and just tuck it and run. He continues to look downfield before he makes that final decision to take off.
So there you have it. There's comments from Coach Whitt, and it sounds like the volume was a little low. I apologize about that. I've got it cranked up as high as it can go. But equipment, mic problems, synonymous with the Utah Blockcast. So I apologize. I think just in general, I think the overall sense from Coach Whittingham is that the offense was ahead of where it was when it started in spring ball, which is as it should be. And, in terms of what we saw from the offense, I thought the passing game made great strides over the course of spring ball. And according to, folks that I've talked to, Devin Dampier was instrumental and really took charge in terms of those player run practices. And according to Coach Whittingham, you could tell that those practices and the time that those guys spent working out this summer together really paid off, and that allowed the offense today to start off on the right track. And it sounds like the offense had a really, really good day. So, in general, I think that's the sort of stuff that you want to hear in terms of, obviously, we know what this is going to be about. We know that we're just kind of setting the table. These coaches haven't really got to work with the players this summer. This is only the first day, but I think there should be a decent amount of optimism about what this offense can be. With Devin Dampier having the mastery of the offense that he does, and what that can mean for the rest of the group with him, orchestrating everything and leading the way. And I think that's sort of the key to this Utah offense is obviously Devin Dampier and what he means to this offense, and his leadership and what he's going to bring in that sense. And it was interesting today listening to Jason Beck talk about Devin Dampier, and he made the point that it's going to be important for Devin to sort of take on a different tone with his leadership. He's been very good in terms of building relationships and being a great friend to everybody off the field, and not that should take a back seat to what to his approach. Not that he should change up anything, but Coach Beck made the point that this is now fall camp and the season is 30 days away. And it's time to take on a different mindset. It's time to take on a bit more of a serious tone and to hold those around him a little bit more accountable. The rubber is about to hit the road, and things are going to start getting pretty serious here. And in a few weeks, they're going to start putting in the game plan for UCLA. And so these next 3 weeks are going to be vital for Utah, getting up to speed and getting those guys that Coach Whittingham talked about, those 30 guys that aren't acclimated into the offense. Devin Dampier is going to play an important role in getting everybody up to speed. And two key guys when we're talking about that are the transfer portal receivers that Utah brought in this spring, Tobias Merriweather and Larry Simmons. Devin Dampier is going to play a key role in their acclimation and their comfort level as they put in the work over the next couple of weeks preparing for UCLA. So Devin Dampier, it's going to be important for him to just continue to be who he is, and that was something that he talked about. He doesn't want to change up his style, but he knows that he's got to hold guys accountable, and I think that's going to be key. So got a few comments here in the chat, and again, like I said earlier, if you guys have questions, if you have comments, please feel free. There's a chat feature which you guys can use, and our guy, I shouldn't say everybody's. There's like 3 people on here that consider Andrew Crane a favorite on Twitter, and Steve, he asked, Steve, what's the over under on heart attacks by Kyle Whittingham watching Devin Dampier play? There will probably be a couple. And that's that's just Devin Dampier's style. It's a big part of his game, and he not that it's everything about his game, and I think that's kind of where people misunderstand Dampier. There's a lot of comments about him, thriving in chaos and thriving, off script, and that is a big part of, he has a lot of big moments, big plays, but Dampier, he does a great job of still operating, on script and doing what he's supposed to and executing what he's supposed to. He has one of the quicker times to throw according to PFF, and I think that's going to be key for him is staying in structure and executing the offense in the passing game specifically is going to be key for him. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some heart attacks, and I think that's going to be both exciting and terrifying. But I think there's definitely going to be those moments this season with Devin Dampier, because that's who he is, man. He is just an exciting player. So, man, I wish we saw practice. I wish we got to watch practice. My counterpart, the BYU counterpart, Mitch Harper, gets to watch 20 minutes of practice down there at BYU, and we don't get that with Utah. We don't get to watch practice this camp. I don't think we've gotten to watch practice in fall camp for quite a few years. So unfortunately didn't get to see guys practice, but I'll say this, getting a look at some of the guys, just kind of, as they're exiting the field and all that. One guy, Coach Powell talked about him putting on weight, now he's weighing 265. Logan Fonnell definitely looks like he enjoyed his honeymoon in a good way, he looked noticeably bigger. He's got that athletic thickness. And it was good to see guys in that sense. And there's a couple other guys that stood out. Caleb Lomu definitely looks thicker and bigger, and a handful of other guys, Carson Kafusi, Jonah Lea'ea, those guys have definitely put on a good amount of size, which is going to be key for those guys in particular. So want to get to Coach Beck's a few clips from Coach Beck earlier today talking about the offense and talking about some few other things. It's not going to be his entire interview. It's just going to be a few clips. And so I'll get to that here, and then we'll get to a few more of your guys' questions.
We really just want to put the right guys in the right places to make plays. We want to adapt to what our strengths are and play to those strengths. Real like eye test. We're going to go not at a fast tempo, but we're going no huddle. We're moving guys around, kind of spread. The QB reads and RPOs are in there. But year to year, that thing always shifts to who's your personnel and what are their strengths. And some years that's more passing, some years that's more running. So, that thing will vary because we want to play to our strengths. We're still in that process of that playing out. For instance, when we started New Mexico last year, we had 5-6 skilled receivers that we thought were going to be some of our better players. And as we headed in that first game, that was kind of the trajectory we were on. Well, as we got early in the season, some of those guys were struggling to consistently make plays, and our running backs were way rising up in what they were doing, and so that thing shifted, in that course, and there became 2 receivers and a tight end that we really relied on, and then it was all these running back guys. And so the offense kind of molded more that direction. So, with the Devin and the O-line, that's the most predictable right now. It's the other spots that are more what direction is this going to take with the dependable playmaker, guys you trust, and kind of the offense molding, shifting that direction. It's really important what they can bring to this team to help this to win games. And so them, Bryce Duke, running back, has experiences in. So, it's really these next 2 weeks, you're not making huge judgments right away because it's going to take a little time to settle in and get their rhythm and get going. But once you kind of see that thing turn now you're looking at that feedback of how are they contributing, what can we count on them for, and to know how we can use them in the offense.
What led to your interest in your pursuit of them? What qualities do they possess that you think translates here?
We're looking for guys who can consistently win, get open, catch the ball. The more they can stretch the field or be versatile, play both outside and inside is great. But it's all about who can consistently win, make plays, catch the ball to help move the chains and score points.
Here is Morgan Scally with comments on the defensive tackle additions that they've made this summer, the cornerback additions they've made this summer, and then also some thoughts on Devin Dampier and what he means to the offense and how difficult it is for defenses to prepare for him.
But, good to have a couple few new D tackles, Dylan Battle, transferring from LSU, Pupu Sepulona, Semi Taulanga. So those bodies will help out a lot in the depth category. Now it's just a matter of developing them and seeing who can play right away. The good thing is we're not having to do much physically with them. Their weight's where it needs to be. It's just learning the defense. I would say getting stronger, definitely. You're always looking for speed off the edge. This is, again, a point I've talked about before. I'm much more focused on a productive, efficient pass rush than sacks. If I'm hitting a quarterback, if I'm being disruptive, then you're forcing him to get rid of the ball quicker than he wants to. So I felt like we did a pretty good job of that last year. Obviously, the sack count wasn't what it was in previous seasons, but I felt like we were effective at getting to the quarterback. I like the depth that we have there. I think that we've gotten better. Coach Powell's done a great job of developing that group, and it's going to be a competitive fall camp for those guys. We'll find out. JC obviously has a ton of speed. He was a track guy out of high school, had shown that at Auburn, the speed and the fluidity that we were looking for. He's got to continue to make sure that he's doing everything he can to be healthy, with shoulder and everything. But and then Mosen obviously provides some quickness, some athleticism. So those are two guys that need the development as well. But we would not have gone that route if we didn't feel like we could use them right away. Athletic quarterbacks just cause issues, particularly when you're going to use them in a dedicated quarterback run game. It's one thing for him to just pull it on his own, escape the pocket, things break down, and he's able to make plays just with his legs on his own. But when there's a dedicated run package, or that you as a defensive coordinator really have to focus on, okay, how are we going to add a guy in the box? How are we going to take care of the quarterback in the run game? It really forces you to practice that. So he provides both. He can, if you're going to four-man rush the kid, he does a great job of understanding when things break down, when to take off, but they also have a very good dedicated QB run game.
Here are comments from wide receiver coach Micah Simon, who had some insights on the transfer portal additions Utah welcomed this spring in Tobias Merriweather and Larry Simmons. He also shared some comments on the development of Dadrian Zipper and Luca Caldarella, and then also some comments on just the development of Nate Johnson and what his potential role could be this season.
Yeah, I think one, just athletically, they both looked the part. You got a kid in Tobias who's 6'4", 6'5", 200 pounds, runs a 4.4. So prototypical, type of guy you like. Larry's at 6'1", 195 guy. So they both looked the part. Now it's just how quickly can they grasp the offense and how quickly can they gel, with the quarterback and make plays that way. But, their work ethic, is off the charts. I was here Sunday night dropping some stuff off. 8:30 they were on the field. That's some stuff that you love to see as a coach. So excited to see what happens. Yeah, a lot of growth. Our offense is much different than kind of what's been in the past here. So a lot of different things we do as a receiver that they may have not been asked to do previously. So just honing in on their skill set, their receiver skills, and it's they've definitely shown progress. And it's like the first question, right? It's a lot of unknowns, so we're just looking forward to all these guys getting reps and seeing what happens.
Nate Johnson's listed as a wide receiver, but
yeah, I think having Coach Coy Detmer is a huge help for us. Been in this deal with him for it's our third year together now, so being able to work with him, and able to get Nate prepared to be, in multiple positions and not make it too difficult on him. So it's good to have that, have him able to help us. And then just with Nate, obviously people know his speed and everything. And then, he played quarterback, so he has some smarts to him as well, some savviness. So, all those things help when you're trying to kind of hone in on that type of Swiss Army knife position.
Did it get better? Man, I'm sorry. Guys, I'm so sorry. Please shame me. I get it. I apologize. I thought the volume was going to be solid. And I apologize. So basically, gosh, got to recap what Coach Beck said now. Good grief. What did he say? So talked a lot about up-tempo and playing with tempo. And that's going to be a thing that we hear pretty consistently. Coach Whittingham talked about it. And that's going to be a thing. That is going to be a noticeable difference with the offense. This team is going to play with a bit more up-tempo pace. And, it's not going to be no huddle where they're as Coach Whittingham said, they're not going to be playing no huddle and hiking the ball, snapping the ball at 20 seconds, right? They're going to get to the line of scrimmage. They're going to assess what the defense is doing and then go from there. So they're going to take their time with it, but it is going to be up tempo. And I think, that sort of plays into Utah's strengths, right? If you want to establish the run and you have an offensive line that should be as good as Utah's is going to be this season, you want to hit the opponent pretty hard with that offensive line. You want to be physical and you want to, punch them as much as you can. And that's going to be the key. So, not only do you feel like you're going to be more physical, you're going to play with a greater pace. The goal is to wear defenses down with your run game, with your physicality, and with your tempo. That is going to be a point of emphasis with this offense, given what you have along the offensive line. With the 2 offensive tackles and the 3 interior linemen, you can be pretty physical, and there's going to be more to the run game than what we saw over the last couple of years. Is gonna, it's not gonna be Ludwig hammering that inside zone button. There's going to be diversity, and that was something that Coach Beck also talked about. Is that when you have offensive tackles like Caleb Lomu and like Spencer Fano, that gives an offensive coordinator the ability to do, some pretty unique things. And, his comments were geared more towards the screen game and what that's going to be. But there's a lot of things that you can do with offensive linemen getting out into space and utilizing them in the run game as well. So pin and pulls, sweeps, that sort of stuff, like those are going to be elements of the offense that we didn't get to see under Ludwig for whatever reason. He's a great mind. He's a great offensive mind, but it just wasn't a presence in his offense. And I think that's going to be a really noticeable difference. And so, there's going to be greater diversity with the run game, and that's going to be key. And obviously Devin Dampier is instrumental in that. And I would play Coach Scalley's comments, which include some commentary on Devin Dampier and what sort of impact that has. But given the volume issues that I've had so far, I'm not going to go 0 for 3. I'm gonna stay off that last one. I'm not gonna strike out. So we're not gonna test it. I'm not gonna play the Scally clip. But I'll just summarize what what he said is that when you have a quarterback like Devin Dampier, and he's a key part of the run game, not just in the ability to scramble when things break down, which is going to be a lot of fun to watch that because he was really productive when things broke down. But he's also going to be a factor in design QB run game. And Coach Scally talked about, when you have to account for the quarterback in the run game and account for him in terms of assigning a defender of him, to be mindful of him and counting him in the run game, it just opens things up and gives the offense a little bit more breathing room, gives the offensive line a little bit more breathing room in terms of, defenders can't just crash down on the inside zone. They have to now really respect Dampier. And so that presence is huge. But then, too, getting back to the scrambling element, Devin Dampier led the country in EPA per rush. And EPA per rush is essentially assigning a value, a point system for certain plays. And he led the entire country in EPA per rush, greater than Ashton Genty, greater than, Quinton Judkins, greater than, and typically quarterbacks are going to grade out higher in EPA because it's sort of expected versus unexpected. Devin Dampier is really good, is what I'm trying to say, when things break down and he has to use his legs and run for first downs. That's what I'm trying to get at here, is that, he provides a lot of value in that sense where, when it's 3rd and 8 and things aren't opening up down the field, or the defense is blitzing and they're exposed and they've got a little open space that Dampier can utilize, he's really adept at using his legs, converting the first downs, and that's going to be a really important element to the offense as well. So that was some of Coach Beck's commentary. He also talked about Tobias Merriweather and Larry Simmons and sort of the importance that these next few weeks, what they're going to be, how important these 2 weeks are for them in developing their chemistry with Dampier and developing their comfort with the offense and executing what they need to. These next 2 weeks are vital for those two. But what they love about them is that they have those elite qualities that, they haven't been able to translate just yet, but getting them into their system, and seeing what they have, they feel they've got potential with those two specifically. And I think, Merriweather, Devin Dampier credited him for, having a pretty strong day one and calling him that guy and saying he had a great performance today in practice. And so, that's encouraging to hear. You want to hear that, and you want to hear that continue over the next couple of practices. And I think Merriweather, he's got tremendous potential at 6'5", 200 pounds. He's a 4'4" type of kid. He can really be that receiver that Dampier needs to stretch the field, to take those shots vertically. He fits really well in that role with Dampier. And so when you're talking about Dampier getting out of the pocket and playing off script, that's the type of receiver you want. You want somebody 6'5", 200 pounds, running 4'4". It could go up and get it. That's the type of guy you want to throw the ball to. So you like that. And then Larry Simmons, he's been a guy that's come in and he's just been about his business. There's been a lot of really positive commentary about, how he's come in and approached his work. There's a really great deal of optimism with him that he can be a really productive player for Utah as well. And he can operate more so in the intermediate parts of the field, and really complement the rest of the wide receiver group as well. So you like what you've got in those two, but again, it's all got to come together. And again, getting back to Dampier, he's going to play a vital role in those two specifically in their acclimation process. So let's get to some comments, some questions. Again, I apologize about the volume. I was prepping them. I was getting the clips ready. I swear I had the volume where it needed to be. I thought I was ready for it. I apologize. Again, first time live streaming. This is new to me, uncharted territory for me, so I'll be better. I will get back in the lab and I will improve the next time we do this. I promise you guys that. So, let me see here. Let me get through some of these comments. Tyrell asked about Hunter Andrews. Again, didn't get a watch practice, but we got the opportunity to talk to Fred Whittingham about Hunter Andrews. And when we asked about Hunter specifically, Fred just, Fred, he's a bad poker player. He got a nice little smile talking about Hunter Andrews and what he's going to be in this offense. He wouldn't divulge specifics, again, being the bad poker player that he is. But, I think Hunter Andrews is really going to be a key piece to this offense. I think he's going to be utilized in ways that we've wanted to see Brant Keithy utilized over the last couple seasons, ways that we saw Keithy utilized back in 2018 and 2019, where his versatility was more on display than what it became, the last couple seasons, where he basically became, pretty much a slot receiver. I think you're going to see more of that versatility with Hunter Andrews. Again, at 6'2", 230, 4'4" type of speed, you want to utilize that in all the ways possible. So, getting him involved in the screen game, taking shots vertically with him. All he's got to be is faster than the man across from him. And he's going to have some favorable matchups in that sense. So you can use him, vertically. You can get him involved in the run game. Again, given his background in high school being a running back, he's very comfortable taking handoffs. And I firmly believe that we'll see him pretty involved in both phases of the game, in the passing game and the run game. So not a whole lot of detail from coaches on Hunter Andrews, but again, Fred Whittingham's bad poker face really kind of gave it away that there's a lot of excitement around Hunter Andrews, and I think he's going to be a big piece to this offense. Cole asked, with Lander and Smith playing both ways, are we concerned about their potential health playing that many snaps? Well, I think the thing here is, like, Utah's not going to play them, like Travis Hunter was, where he was playing, the majority of the snaps offensively and defensively, where he was playing 120 snaps a game. I don't think you're going to see that. with the depth that Utah has at linebacker with Levani and Jono, you can afford to give Lander some reps off. You want to utilize Levani and rely on his experience. He's a veteran, and Jono Hall coming into year 2 at linebacker, there's a lot of optimism about what sort of step and what sort of progress he's going to make going into year 2 at the linebacker position. So you can be judicial with the sort of snap counts that you have. Lander, obviously, the priority is going to be linebacker. That's going to be his primary position. But with Lander, he is going to. I think he's going to get some opportunities at tight end. I genuinely believe that. I think it's going to be. He's not going to play a ton of snaps at tight end, but I think there's going to be packages and opportunities, special situation type of plays. That's where we'll see Lander Barton specifically. So again, I think Utah will be pretty smart. They want to be wise with Lander. They want to make this his best year. Obviously, with Lander coming back and going through the season that he did last year, Lander's motivated as all get out to bounce back and have a really strong year. And I think that's going to center primarily on what he does as a linebacker. So I don't think we have to worry too much about that. And then with Smith, he's going to have a big role on defense. I don't think Utah wants to take him away from, take that presence away too much, from the defense. But I think you'll see Smith, get a couple opportunities every so often on the offensive side of the ball. And, with his athleticism, it makes all the sense in the world to try to get the ball in his hands and allow that dynamic, explosive athleticism to create opportunities. So I think that's sort of what we'll see. I just don't think we'll see huge snap counts for either one of those two. But regardless, Utah, they'll be pretty judicial. And I think both of those guys will be pretty impactful for Utah this year. So let's see here. Getting through all of the volume comments. Again, I apologize for the volume on the videos. Got to figure that out. I'll crank up the dBs next time, the decibel levels for the Andrew Cranes out there. Let's see. I'll go back to Andrew Crane. Steve, with the news that Smith, Snow, and Lander Barton playing offense, is there a worry that Utah doesn't have enough playmakers on the offense side of the ball? No, I don't think that's the case. I think these are guys that are just supremely talented. Is there a worry that Utah doesn't have the playmakers? I understand, if there's a worry, but I think Fred has long wanted to get Lander at the tight end position, even when he had, other guys like Brandt and Dalton. He's coveted Lander and has wanted him to play tight end for the last couple seasons. So that's not surprising. And then again with Smith, he's just so dynamic. You should want to utilize that sort of athleticism on the offense side of the ball. But I think Utah's got playmakers. They've got the playmakers they need and the guys they want. So we'll see. Let's see here. What other comments do we have? Adam Howick asks, have you heard anything about Mana Carvalho? I thought he showed some good things in the spring game. So Mana's going to be interesting. I think he's got an opportunity to play a pretty decent role for Utah this year. I think this offense is pretty slot receiver friendly, where going back to 2018 with prime Britton Covey, 2016 even, that sort of utilization of the slot position. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think we're going to see an increase in the screen game and getting the ball into those slot receivers, into their hands, and allowing them to create after the catch. And that's, a big strength of Mana Carvalho and of Creed Whittemore. So I think while I haven't heard of an update specifically on Carvalho, I believe that the slot receiver position is going to benefit, quite a bit from this offensive shift. And then two, which kind of gets me to a pretty consistent question about this offense, and that revolves around the tight end position and how Beck is going to utilize it. So bet coming in, going to more of a spread. And I talked about this on the spring preview that I published last Saturday, going through the quarterbacks and tight ends and offensive line. I talked about this sort of shift in the type of personnel that we'll see at that tight end position specifically. So Utah is going to shift essentially their point of emphasis from more of those traditional wide tight ends, the guys attached to the offensive line. Your 6'5", 260 type tight ends, your Thomas Yasmins, your Cole Fotheringhams, where we saw two of those guys on the field at any given time. We're going to see a shift with this offense to more flex tight ends, where you're going to see them utilized more in the slot, a la Dalton Kincaid, a la Brant Keithy, right? Those types of pass catchers. And I think that's still going to allow them to utilize the tight end position quite a bit, because you've got a guy in Dallin Bentley who is still that big body that you can use, in your 11 personnel. And then, you can have an Otto Tia who's made the move to tight end, now 235, 240. You can have him in the slot as a flex tight end and still be in sort of 12 personnel, quasi 12 personnel, where you've got that flex tight end. JJ Buchanan has been moved from receiver to tight end as well. He's already up to 225. If you haven't watched his huddle film from high school last season, he's an incoming freshman. He joined the program this summer. If you haven't watched his huddle film, go watch it tonight. He is an athletic type kid, two-sport athlete playing football and basketball. He's got a 38-inch vertical, just a dynamic athlete. He came into the program and he's already up to 225 pounds at 6'4", so he fits really well into that flex tight end type. And I think that's where you're going to see the shift in terms of it's still going to be tight end friendly. We're still going to see the utilization of two tight ends. It's just going to be a different type of tight end. And I think that's great, because that's what we're seeing, in the NFL, is this shift to more of these spread type tight ends, more pass catcher friendly flex tight ends. I think that's really going to bear well on that spot specifically. Let me go through it here. BCS Busters ask, any thoughts on QB2 yet? Not really. We didn't get a whole lot of update on, Isaac Wilson and Jamari Ficklin. Those two exited spring ball pretty dead even, according to folks that I've talked to. Given the sort of fit that Ficklin has in this offense with his athleticism, and man, I'm telling you guys, like, I had questions about his arm, questions about, his throwing motion, but getting to watch him in spring, I was really, really impressed with his arm. He's got some juice in that arm where the ball just, it pops off of his hand. So, he's a guy that's created a lot of excitement, for his future. And with Isaac, he gained a lot of valuable experience last year. It was tough experience, but still valuable nonetheless. It's all just going to be about how he responds to that experience that he gained and what sort of work he puts in, with what he went through last year. And I think, with Isaac, there's still talent there. There's still ability. It's just going to take time for him, and I shouldn't even say it's going to take time. It's just all going to be up to him, to kind of determine where he's at with this game. How is he going to respond to what happened last year, and how is he going to take to this new offense? It all depends on how much work he's willing to put in. I think I think we'll learn quite a bit about the QB2 over the next 2 weeks. Coach Beck talked about, they have 2 scrimmages during fall camp, and those are going to be really important for determining that spot. So we'll learn quite a bit. We'll learn pretty quick here what that spot is going to look like as we get into the season. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see Ficklin have a role given his fit in the offense and what he can do, in the option game. And I think, it'll be really interesting to see if he sort of, emerges as QB2. But again, given the experience that Isaac went through last year and all that, I think we should also be kind of cautious with trying to throw a true freshman into the fire again, and all that. So think we learned some valuable lessons last year is all I'm trying to get at. Let's see here. Devin Dampier enthusiast. Any changes on the strength and conditioning side? We've been destroyed by injuries the last 3 years. Yeah, so this was something that Morgan Scally actually highlighted in his availability today. Is what they've elected to do is sort of space out their physical periods. So they're going to give the guys more rest in between their physical periods where they're practicing their physicality, their tackling, their shoulder pads, and all that sort of stuff. They're going to space those out and be more judicious in that sense. So that way it's not all just, physical period after physical period. They're going to give these guys some greater rest in practice is kind of the big change. And then also, they've spaced out practices a little bit better as well. So I think that's going to be the big key, and they're going to be mindful of it. They know that they've been beaten up on the injury front the last couple of seasons. They're mindful of what they need to do to protect these guys, but still, this program has the mindset that football is a physical game, and that's going to be the approach. Like, you can't not practice, the important things, the basics, the foundational things that make you a good football player, which is, physicality. So that's still an important thing, but they have made some changes to their practice schedule to sort of hopefully help and address that issue. D tier Utes Stan, I might have missed it, but how likely is it that Bate Johnson throws passes for Utah this year? I think there's a pretty good chance. I think there's a pretty good chance. Will it be his quarterback? I don't know. But yeah, I think there's a good chance we see him make a throw. He could do a lot. Like, he's going to do everything this season. He's going to catch passes. He's going to take handoffs. He might line up as a Wildcat QB. We're going to see a bit of everything from Nate. He is genuinely a Swiss Army knife, and they will use that. So I'm fascinated to see all the things that they do with Nate Johnson. And I think Nate has come into the program with the right mindset that, hey, like, I've tried to make it work as a quarterback only, and I'm back now. And I think he's embraced this opportunity to lean more into his athleticism and what he can do for him on the field. So I'm really excited to see what they do with him this season. But yeah, I do think we see him throw at least one pass this year, at the very least. Master Ute asks, how are the corners? We'll see. I think obviously Smith Snowden is going to lead the way for this group. I have a lot of confidence in him being a guy that can, not only play in that nickel spot, but he's going to be, utilized on the outside. And so he's going to have a big role. I think there's a lot of optimism around Scooby Davis. He's had a great offseason. According to someone that I've talked to earlier this summer, you can see the confidence that he gained and how it's impacted him, not just as a player, but in life. His work in the weight room, his work in the classroom, all of those things, the confidence he's gained from his playing last year has benefited him significantly. So he's coming to fall camp with a lot of optimism around him. And so now it's really just kind of about figuring out that other spot. And that's going to come down to primarily Blake Cotton and Donovan Saunders, who I think, add a really unique element with their size. Cotton is 6'2", Saunders is 6'4". He's going to remind folks of Keith McGill. And that's going to be a battle. It was a battle during spring, and it's going to continue. And I think, we'll continue to see those guys over the course of the season. But I think what's really exciting about that cornerback room is they feel they've really upgraded the depth in that room with the guys that they brought in during the spring portal window with J.C. Hart and Jalen Moson. Obviously Utah lost a couple guys in Sammy Hunter and Kwamari Shemwell. But, I remember talking to somebody back in May when they landed these guys that they felt they really upgraded, from those two to Hart and Moson. So they're going to get a better feel for, what they're like on the field. But man, listening to Coach Shaw talk about, Hart with his size at 6'2" and 202 pounds, running 4.3, with the experience that he gained in the SEC, playing special teams and showing some good physicality. Shaw's really excited about what that can translate to in this defense. And then with Moson, he's experienced, and they're going to figure out where he fits best, whether it's outside, whether it's inside. He's viewed primarily as an inside guy and can really shore up the depth behind Snowden, and even allow Snowden, if he proves worthy of it, to play more outside this season. So they feel really good about the depth. They feel they've upgraded, at least on paper. Now it's all about kind of seeing it on the field and what it means. But on paper, they felt like they've upgraded quite a bit in that cornerback room. Ryan Davis. We are just powering through these questions. I love it. Ryan Davis. Haven't heard his name for a while. Is he still high up on the depth chart? Yeah, man, he's going to have a role. Like he got dinged up during spring ball, and so he missed some time, but he's going to have a role. He knows this offense. He's got chemistry with Dampier. He's going to be a guy for Dampier and Coach Beck. He's going to be kind of that, like, I've compared him to like a Wes Welker type, where he's just that guy, like he can get open 6, 7, 8 yards. He can run those quick routes and get open that way. I'm interested to see if he can still have the same sort of impact deep down the field, as he makes the move up to the Big 12. But at the very least, he can be that reliable option for Dampier. And just, again, given his experience in the offense, he's going to have a presence here. Bodie asks about the defensive tackles, and I'm a little worried about D tackles looking through the roster, and only Dylan Battle was the only one over 300 pounds, and who knows who's on the opposite side of Fano on the edge. I like Lance, but Jackson showed some good reps in the spring game. All right, Bodie. So let's talk about the defensive line. Let's talk about it. The guy to know beyond Dylan Battle, which is going to be interesting. We're going to learn a lot about him. Obviously, Dallas Vakalahi, 6'2", 313. Man, there's a lot of confidence that he's going to be a guy for Utah this year. He's going to be a significant impact player. Aliki Vamahi is a 300-pounder, veteran. The leadership he's displayed this offseason has been really valuable for the young guys coming into the program. They've got 3 freshmen coming in that I think are going to be not only out of need, but because they have that sort of potential. I think Carson Kafusi, Semi Talawanga, and then Dylan Battle, as you mentioned, along with Pupu Sepulona, those are guys that can potentially contribute. I think Carson will contribute this season pretty significantly. I think he'll probably end up DT4 in this group. And then, Semi Talawanga, he's going to be a guy at 336 pounds. He's a bowling ball, man. He's 336 pounds at like 5'11", but he's got explosiveness. And they're excited about him and what he can be in this defense. So they've got size. They feel they've addressed sort of the depth with the bodies that they've brought in. It's now just about developing them. And that's something that Coach Scally talked about is, they feel they've brought in the guys that they need at that defensive tackle position specifically. Now it's just about developing their skill set, developing their mind, and helping them become good football players in this Utah defense. So that's going to be the process throughout fall camp. And I'll tell you what, going up against this offensive line, they're going to learn some hard lessons. There's probably going to be, reports that the offensive line dominated. That's good. We want, these guys to go through these battles against this offensive line. You would rather them learn the hard lessons now than in season. So, going up against this offensive line, going up against, that group day in and day out is going to help them get better. So that's going to be the key for them is these next 3 weeks is developing and buying into the culture in that defensive tackle room. But they've got guys that they feel optimistic about. And then two, Jonah Lea'ea, the last I heard, he came into the program, I think, in the 2020 class, was a defensive end at 230 pounds. He's now up close to 295. So he's pushing, 300 pounds as well. He's put on a lot of good weight. And so that's what they need. They need him to be a guy for them as well. Let's see here. A lot of good stuff. Let's see here. D-tier, Ute Stan. Who's looking hot at RB2? Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. I think Bryce Duke certainly has a chance to become a guy for Utah in that role. But I look at Nakari Rogers, obviously given his experience in the offense last year, as sort of the odds-on favorite to earn that spot. Who's going to emerge as sort of the complement to those two? That's going to be really fascinating. I think listening to Coach Beck talk about Duke today, he highlighted that Duke has some good athleticism. He's got some good skill as a pass catcher as well. And so that sort of leads you to think like he can be sort of that third down back potentially. We'll get a better feel for, how legitimate that is. But that was surprising to hear that. It was not something that I thought was in his game, but that's what they evaluated. And so that'll be interesting to see if he can emerge as that third running back. The guy that I think he's going to be competing for primarily for that sort of role is actually Daniel Bray, who's the freshman that joined the program in that winter in the winter class. He went through spring ball. He's got that dynamic athleticism. At 5'11", 180 pounds, he's put on some good weight from people that I've talked to as well. And so I think he can be sort of that change of pace, that fastball to complement Wayshawn Parker and the other running backs. But yeah, I think Nakari Rogers is kind of your odds-on favorite to be RB2 behind Wayshawn Parker, who, Wayshawn Parker, he's set up really nicely to have a pretty good year, pretty productive year. So I think, there's a lot of optimism about, what he can be this season. He's had a great offseason. Coach Atuwaya talked about him. It was sort of a slow ramp up for him during spring ball because, he had a minor surgery that limited his availability during winter workouts. He wasn't fully in shape to start spring ball, but, eventually got there by the end of spring ball. And he's coming to fall camp in great shape. He had a great summer, and there's a lot of excitement about what he can be in this offense and sort of preparing for the workload that many expect him to have. So I think, Wayshawn is certainly a guy to be mindful of as a breakout candidate. And I think he can have a really productive year. But yeah, that run game is going to get a lot of run this year, in my opinion, with this offensive line blocking in front of him. Tyrell with a great question. Seems like the energy is much higher this year. Is that from new coaches leading the charge, players? Who's pushing the belief the most? This is something that I've talked to a lot of people about around the program. There is definitely a new and improved vibe with this group. And I think that says a lot of, first, the players, right? It says a lot of the coaches as well. You can see the energy that Coach Atuwaya lives with, and I think that's infectious. Micah Simon he's young, he's a lot of fun to interact with. He's got this thing where he's talking about flowers and soil. It's a really interesting conversation. You guys will have to ask him about him if you ever get the opportunity to talk to him about it. Ask about flowers and soil. He's got a great little thing to talk to you about with that. But I think, Coach Beck, I think he is, from Coach Ludwig to Coach Beck, I think that is where we're seeing the biggest difference in terms of the coaches and the energy that they've brought. I think Coach Beck, he may not be like the loudest, the most energy, rah type of guy, but he's just brought a renewed sense, a fresh energy in that offensive coordinator role that I think you need in today's game. And so that's been key. But again, I think it all boils down to the players and the leadership specifically of Devin Dampier. I can't stress enough how much his leadership has been appreciated by those in the program, players, coaches. It has been exactly what this program needed to move on from, what we've all experienced, what everybody's experienced the last 2 years, where it's been pretty tough. And I think his charisma, his personality, it is the sort that's just, you can't help but smile when you're around him. It's that type of energy. And I think that's really what has sort of fueled the change in vibes and energy around the program. But it is definitely something that, almost everybody you talk to that is involved with the program, whether in it or around it, they all sense that there's, definitely a new energy in the program. And I think that that's a good thing. It's not to say that, the pre last year that it was old and tired, but I just think it's good to have that young new appreciation for what Utah is. So I think that's good. Let's see here. What other questions we got? Do you actually believe Witt when he says Beck will have full autonomy of the offense? Yeah, I do. I genuinely do. Based on nothing but the the glass half full mentality that I live with. Yeah, I believe it. I believe Beck will have full autonomy to call the plays that he wants. The only thing Whittingham is stressing is don't turn the damn ball over, and we all agree with that. Don't turn it over. Yeah, I believe Witt when he says that. I believe that Beck is going to, operate the offense that he wants to. And again, I think the tempo is going to be a really significant difference that we see with this offense. You know, everybody is going to kind of point to the run game, and that is Beck's offense. Beck wants to run the ball. It's going to be spread offense. It is going to look different. It is going to operate different. I think Beck, this is going to be his offense. Yeah, I believe that. So, let's see here. Did I miss anything? Any other questions? Any other? How is special teams and Creed? Don't know yet about special teams. I think Smith is going to have a role still as sort of a returner. Dylan Curtis, the freshman kicker from Murray, All-American kicker. I apologize. Let me set that correctly. All-American high school All-American kicker Dylan Curtis out of Murray. I think we saw the leg power. Saw him, man, he can boom the crap out of the ball. He's got a lot of power in that leg. I think we'll get a better sense of his accuracy. And we saw him make a number of 40, 50, long 50-yarders during spring ball. We also saw him miss some. So, we don't know what we have at kicker until, we get in games and these guys actually get out there and kick it in game. So we don't know for sure until, we see it. But in terms of what we saw from him, the power that he has, yeah, Dylan Curtis, he's got that. He's got the leg juice, man. So I think that'll be improved. And then Orion Phillips, didn't see a lot of him during spring ball, actually. And it's not that he was like out or was injured or anything. I just didn't pay attention, to be honest. So I don't know. I apologize about that. But I do think special teams will be a little bit better than what we've seen the last couple years. What other questions am I missing? What questions am I missing? If I scrolled past a question and didn't read it, please retype it. Terrell asked about the podcast and plans for the podcast. So the plans for the podcast. There are going to be noticeable differences with the podcast this season. You're going to see me a lot this year doing the podcast. There's going to be post-game podcasts where we'll probably do it live like this post-game. There's going to be pretty much daily podcast episodes for Utah Blockcast fans. So that's going to be the big change. I'm working on some things with, obviously Cam and Tyson. They're still at the heart of what the Utah Blockcast is. But to expect them to be available on every episode, that's just not going to be conducive to their lives and their work schedules. So it's going to be a lot of me, and I apologize. But we're going to become best friends, all of us. And we're going to do some things, but I've got some plans. I've got some things in the works, hoping to do something with Sly, every week where we're breaking down X's and O's a little bit more specifically and stuff like that. And so this is going to be a big focus for me this season, is growing the digital platform of the Utah Blockcast. And so you guys are going to be key to that. Like, the more you tune in, the more you interact, the greater and stronger this show is going to be. And that's at the core of it. So it's meant a lot to me to get here. Damn. Whew, man. Whew. Devin Dampier, happy thoughts. Devin Dampier, happy thoughts. Man, woo, that emotion got me good. No, it's meant a lot to me to have the support of Utah fans. To have the trust of Utah fans. Damn. Sorry, guys. Sorry. But no, it means a lot. It means a lot to me. Just career wise, like thinking about that and all that. So I apologize. But yeah, Blockcast, man, it's gonna be bigger and better this year. It's gonna be greater. It's gonna be more emotional. Obviously, a lot of emotion this year. A lot of emotion. Oh. I apologize, but no, it's gonna be good, man. So I'm excited about this. And you guys are great. You guys are vital to it all, and so I can't express that enough. It means a lot to me to have everybody in here tuning in like you are. It means a lot. So excited, man. Yeah, excited. Got some stuff in the works with the podcast. All right, back to football. Any other questions? Final thoughts? I'll work on the audio of the video clips, and I'll have the podcast up and ready to go with improved audio for you guys that missed some of the early podcast stuff. So appreciate it. Appreciate everybody. If there's nothing else, I'll call it a show. I'll get this posted later. And appreciate everybody tuning in. Excited for more coverage this year. Excited for this Utah football team. There's been a lot of good buzz around the program, and so obviously tomorrow I'll finish here. Obviously tomorrow, Celeste Moa's announcement, 1 p.m. Continue to be cautiously optimistic about Utah with Celeste Moa. So I've heard a lot of good things, heard a lot of the right things that you want to hear. It's just now we got to see it. So I still feel optimistic about Utah's chances tomorrow to land it. And we'll see. We'll know for sure tomorrow. So appreciate everybody. I'll be back probably, man. If Celeste commits, we might have to do an emergency podcast. We'll see. So you might see me tomorrow, but at the very least, we'll be back with another podcast episode on Friday. So for myself, appreciate everybody tuning in and signing off.